Hi everyone, my name is Gabriela Perez and I am an educator here at the Bruce Museum. I am pleased to bring to you today Digital Bruce Beginnings, a program for children ages 3 through 5 and their caregivers. In celebration of Black History Month, today we will learn about Jean-Michel Basquiat. We will also read a book and talk about some imaginative play and hands-on activities you and your adult can do at home. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Black History Month, also known as African American History Month, is an annual observance that focuses on the achievements, contributions, and history of African Americans. Black History Month is celebrated every year during February as it coincides with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist or someone who wanted to end slavery. The month of February also includes the birthday of former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, who primarily fought over the enslavement of Black people in the country. The reason we celebrate Black History Month is to honor and celebrate Black people throughout our history. People such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought for equal rights during the 1950s, and Barack Obama, who was elected the first ever African American president of the United States. However, during this month, we also celebrate African American artists such as Jean-Michel Basquiat and Kehinde Wiley. Jean-Michel Basquiat used his art to focus and bring awareness to the Black community and systems of racism, while Kehinde Wiley uses his art to portray African American men and women using the practices of traditional European portraits. Despite us celebrating these notable figures during February, we can recognize, celebrate, and appreciate their accomplishments all year round. I will now show you a painting from both Basquiat and Wiley. The first painting is titled Self-Portrait and was created in 1984 by Basquiat. What do you see in this painting? Is there anything that stands out to you? I will now show you a painting by Wiley, titled Randerson Romolando Cordeiro. What do you see in this painting? Is there anything that stands out and grabs your attention? Looking at Basquiat's painting, we see an image of a man. The viewer can easily distinguish his hair, eyes, mouth, nose, and ears. Comparing Basquiat's painting to that of Wiley's, we see that Wiley's work is also that of a man. However, we see a drastic change in the style in which the image was painted. I would like for you to pause this video, take a moment to continue to explore the paintings, compare and contrast them, and discuss your conclusions with your adults. I will see you back here in just a moment. Were you able to take a closer look at the paintings? Did you take note of anything in particular or find anything interesting? Now that we have learned about Basquiat and Wiley, let's read a book about Basquiat's childhood and early career. Today's book is Radiant Child, the story of young artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. Somewhere in Brooklyn, between hearts that thumped, double-dutched, and hopscotched, and a salty mouth that slurps sweet ice, a little boy dreams of being a famous artist. In his house, you can tell a serious artist dwells. As he sits at a table with pencils scattered everywhere, Jean-Michel draws from morning until night with a serious face amid a storm of papers. He refuses to sleep until he has created a masterpiece. At night, Images enchant Jean-Michel's mind, and he wakes from his dreams to add one more line. His drawings are not neat or clean, nor does he color inside the lines. They are sloppy, ugly, and sometimes weird, but somehow still beautiful. His art comes from his mother, Matilde, a Puerto Rican woman who designs and sews, cooks and cleans, and makes the house look like a stylish magazine. Most important, she lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel on his father's old work papers. From her, he learns that art is not only in the poetry books she reads, to him or in the theaters and museums they visit. Art is the streets, games of little children, in our style and the words that we speak. It is how the messy patchwork of the city creates new meaning for ordinary things. While visiting the museum, they look at his favorite works of art. Reading the story behind each artist, reading the story behind each work. This is how Jean-Michel learns what it means to be a famous artist. Back at home, he creates art on the floor of his father, while he plays jazz records. Mama cooks arroz con pollo and calls Jean-Michel mi amor. The energy and life of the city can be felt in each line of his drawings. As time goes by, Jean-Michel learns that art has a healing power. After a car accident, he is scared and confused. His mom gives him a book to calm his fears. It is filled with pictures of bones, skulls, and other body parts. Jean-Michel draws from it until he knows it all by heart. He is no longer afraid. Back at home, Jean-Michel's body heals, but his heart breaks. His mother's mind is not well, and the family breaks. She no longer lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel, but sits by the window singing only to birds. Jean-Michel is confused and filled with a terrible blues when his mom can no longer live at home. He tries drawing the terrible out of his blues, but things are not the same. As Jean-Michel grows older, he visits his mother when he can, always bringing his artwork to show, telling her that one day it will be in a museum when I am a famous artist. As a teenager now, Jean-Michel decides, Papa, I will be very, very famous one day. With a sly look and a twinkle in his eye, Jean-Michel leaves Brooklyn for New York City, the Lower East Side, a concrete jungle where only the tough survive. During the day, dressed in a green jumpsuit splattered with paint, Jean-Michel stays with friends, sleeping on couches and floors, leaving a ton of collages and poem-filled papers wherever he goes. At night, Jean-Michel spray paints the walls downtown with poems and drawings that catch the eye of artists, gallery goers, and passerbys. Under his art, he signs the name Samuel instead of Jean-Michel. Everybody wants to know who is Samuel. Samuel moves from street corners to art gallery walls with powerful color compositions in line. collaging and painting on anything he could find. His art is still not neat or clean, and definitely not inside the lines, but somehow still beautiful. With his magical charm, Jean-Michel draws a crowd, but when it is time to work, he prefers to be alone with the radio and TV on full blast. Now, in expensive suits splattered with paint, he flips through stacks of magazines and open books and paints in the night and sometimes for days at a time while sounds and images jump into his head. Jean-Michel, an artist among artists, never doubts one line, creating from a soundtrack that is all his own. People describe him as a radiant wild, a genius child, but in his heart he is king. So he draws crowns for himself and others he admires. A grown man now, with the art world in his hands, Jean-Michel still visits his mother when he can. And at his most important shows, above all the critics, fans, and artists he admires, the place of honor is his mother's, a queen on a throne. He is now a famous artist. That was a great book. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from this book? Now that we have learned about Ringgold and read a book, let's talk about some activities you and your adult can do together to stretch your minds and imaginations. Now that we have learned about African American artists and read a book, let's talk about some activities you and your adult can do together to stretch your minds and imaginations. Think back to Basquiat's and Wiley's artwork. The works I showed you were portraits or images of a person. For our first activity, I would like for you to create your own self-portrait. You can draw inspiration from Basquiat and Wiley's artwork. Another activity you and your adult can do is to research another notable African American artists who use their art to bring awareness to Black communities. For our last activity, I would like for you and your adult to discuss the different ways someone can make a difference in the world, much like Basquiat and Wiley have done through their art. Thank you for participating in Digital Bruce Beginnings. If you would like to share with us what you've created during this program, with your adult's permission, upload an image using our hashtag BruceMuseum. For more digital content or more information about the Bruce Museum, please visit our website www.brucemuseum.org. Bye, friends.